than I do. Are we okay? Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. We will now call to order the first virtual meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee. All participants are asked to keep microphones on mute and video during staff presentations and committee discussions. Participants wishing to speak to an application during the public meeting portion of this meeting will be called on by name one at a time during the applicable public meeting. If you wish to speak to or receive further notice regarding an application have not signed in with the recording secretary, please speak now. Public participants will receive another sign-in opportunity when the public meeting portion of this meeting is called to order. I will now take attendance for our committee members and staff. Please raise your hand or declare your presence when I call your name. Bill Curry. Jacqueline Grimes. Councillor Wendy Alford.
Present.
Bill Whittemire.
Present.
Jack Anderson.
Present.
Councillor Jay Brennan.
Present.
Planning Coordinator Mary Remming. Senior Planner Carl Granke.
I am present, Jack, sorry.
To review, committee members are asked to raise their hand when they wish to speak. Members participating by phone will be called on from time to speak on an application. Alternatively, please find an appropriate opportunity at any available time to notify the chair verbally if you wish to speak. Item number 2 on the agenda, approval of the agenda. Do I have a seconder? You got that, Mary?
I do have it, John, sorry.
Item number 3 on the agenda, adoption of minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have an amendment to the minutes of March 12th. Item 2, priority items, motion 2020-05. There was a recorded vote on that motion. I was not present at that meeting, so I did not vote.
I apologize for that, Jay.
No worries. I was in a better place.
Down south. No,
Couldn't have been.
Any other amendments? All in favor?
Aye.
Seconder? Item number 4, disclosure of any monetary interests.
Mr. Chair, I have a disclosure. I have a conflict of interest with item number 1 for the consent application of 275 Brockville Street.
Okay. We will remove, you'll be removed and then we'll bring you back in for the last person.
Yeah, thank you.
Are we ready to move on to public meeting, Mr. Chair?
Yes, I'm just getting it ready right now.
Okay.
Okay, the purpose of the public meeting. We will now open the public meeting portion of the Planning Advisory Committee meeting. Please be advised, you may leave this meeting at any time. Applicants, agents, and members of the public logged into Zoom to participate in this public meeting are asked to please keep their microphones on mute until called upon by the chair. If you wish to speak to an application and have not signed in with the recording secretary, please speak now. purpose of this Planning Advisory Committee is to consider 3 applications that are before us. Consent application B20-02 for the purposes of severing a 0.4 hectare parcel of land from the commercial property described as 275 Brockville Street. Number 2, minor variance applications MV 2001 and MV 2002 to allow reduced lot sizes compared to the requirements of the R1 zone for both the severed and retained lots at 24 Alfred Street. I am John Wanless, Chair of the Planning Advisory Committee. Committee members, if you are participating through video conferencing, please raise your hand when I state your name to identify yourselves. Committee members participating by phone are asked to state their presence when their name is called. Bill Curry, Jacqueline Grimes, Councillor Wendy Alford, Planning Coordinator Mary Remming,
Present.
Senior Planner Carl Grenke, Bill Whittemeyer, Jack Anderson,
Here.
Councillor
present,
Jay
sorry.
Brennan. This meeting is your opportunity to provide any feedback on these applications, and the Planning Advisory Committee welcomes any questions and comments you may have. We encourage you to do so at this public meeting, as the Planning Act rules suggest that the public's ability to voice objections later in the process may be limited if a written or oral comment is not submitted. The Planning Advisory Committee has delegated approval authority for consent and minor variance applications. The committee will review the applications and any comments or concerns from the public to inform their decisions.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Can we pause there for a moment so I can ask IT to move Jacqueline Grimes into the waiting room due to her conflict of interest with application B2002?
Yep.
I believe we're ready to go, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Presentation and hearing, 275 Brockville Street, B20-02. I will now pass the meeting over to our senior planner, Carl Grenke, to report on notification and summary of consent application 20-02. Following this presentation, I will call on participants one at a time to offer feedback, comments, or questions regarding the proposal. I will also offer the applicants or their agents in attendance on an opportunity to address any concerns brought to the committee by the public. Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us. This is our first virtual meeting of the PAC, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to I guess learn the ropes with us and participate with us in this in this important part of the planning process. So the first application we have here that we're considering tonight is up at the Settlers Ridge Center. It's the shopping center at the south end of town. And the application submitted here on behalf of the property owners, the Smear Group, is to sever a 1 acre parcel at the roughly at the corner of Brockville Street and Toulon. And this parcel is intended to accommodate a future drive-in restaurant. So a concept plan has not been. We do not have a site plan application or a site plan submission that have the exact details of it. However, the proponents have advised they're going to be building this restaurant in accordance with the existing C5 shopping center commercial zoning. So this just the context here is this mall has been certainly it's been in place for quite some time, and over the last few years. A couple of larger tenants, such as Target, have moved out, but there's been some development around the interior and some new businesses on the exterior. In 2018, Council approved a zoning amendment to the C5 zone broadening the list of uses and also allowing for the severance of smaller lots from the mall to sort of encourage the opportunity for redevelopment and flexibility on the site. So this consent application, like every consent application, we've circulated all abutting property owners within 60 meters, 200 feet of the property, as well as applicable agencies. So and we posted on site. And with respect to, I guess the pandemic and the modified version in which we're undertaking the public meetings, we've been giving an additional 10 days notice for planning applications to give people the opportunity to respond. So the Public Works and Utilities Department, they don't object to the application. However, they speak to the importance of administering a shared entrance with the existing entrances on Brockville and Toulon Street, and they advise that servicing exists along the street here. The Rideau Valley Conservation Authority also does not object to the application, provided stormwater is adequately addressed through the development process. And RVCA, if this consent application is approved and a site plan application is submitted, they've requested circulation on that to comment on the site plan process and also look at the source protection implications. This afternoon, I've also received written correspondence from an abutting property owner, Mr. Andrew Mitten. He owns the apartment building on the other corner of Toulon and Brockville Street, and his interests are ensuring that any commercial development here is designed, landscaped, and buffered appropriately to protect and mitigate any impacts on abutting properties. So I believe the committee has been provided this a copy of this letter. Mr. Chair, would you like me to read out the summary provided by Mr. Mitten?
Yes, I don't have it.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, I will read it out I'll read it out right now then. So hello, Carl. Thank you for forwarding to me the proposed severance plan. I own the 3-story, 30-unit apartment building that is located directly across the street from the proposed restaurant on the corner of Toulon and Brockville Street. As my building is the closest building to the proposed restaurant, the appearance of the restaurant and landscaping that faces 12 Toulon is very important to me. It would have been helpful to have a site plan application included with the severance application in order to have a better idea of what was being proposed. In the absence of a site plan proposal, I would recommend the following conditions to the severance approval. The existing lawn between Toulon Street and the parking lot be retained. Additional evergreen trees be planted in the front lawn between Toulon and the new restaurant or parking lot. The restaurant be located as far as possible from Toulon Street, and that garbage and delivery access be located on the southeast side of the new restaurant, where it will be out of the line of sight of the 3-story building and can be effectively screened with fencing. And then a follow-up note, one additional concern I have is that if there's a drive-through, that the order entry location be located on the southeast side of the building due to noise from the speaker during extended operating hours. A takeout restaurant could include a Tim Hortons that is open late, and the noise from the order entry speaker would be a major concern given the short distance to residential units. Thank you for your consideration. So this comment is provided for the committee's consideration. I understand the applicants are participating as well, so perhaps they can speak to some of these plans as well. So just to provide a little bit of context here in terms of the review, the property is designated in our official plan as neighborhood service and commercial, and it's zoned as shopping center commercial. So these policies outline council's intent for the development of the area, and that's as outlined in the official plan, to provide a focal point or destination to meet the day-to-day commercial needs of the adjacent neighborhood or business areas, and intended to create opportunities for residents to obtain commercial goods and services within a reasonable walking distance. So the official plan does accommodate mid-sized commercial uses, including restaurants within the designation, and encourages the upgrading and revitalization of existing shopping centers and minimizing the visual impact of large parking lots by locating them away from public streets. So in this case, the parking lot is already there. However, this application, if approved and the development proceeds, would create a new it would create a more inviting streetscape by breaking up the visual profile of the parking lot and creating a destination that makes use of the existing sidewalks along Brockville Street. So certainly in my mind, the consent application matches what was contemplated when the 2018 zoning amendment was approved. The site is conveniently located at an intersection, but also within 200 meters of 3 apartment buildings and retirement home, as well as additional apartment buildings that are proposed for construction. So there's obviously the area is a gateway location to the town, but also locally servicing a broader range. So I think it's any future development on the severed or retained lots must comply with the applicable zoning standards and managed through site plan control. And I think it's important the site plan control in this case, especially given the proximity of the residential units and the concerns raised from the abutting property owner. It's important that site plan control be effectively managed here to implement the objectives of the designation and policies of the plan, consider optimizing pedestrian linkages to the existing community, and of course designing the future construction in accordance with or respectfully of the residential neighbors. So it's the staff recommendation that the Planning Advisory Committee approves the severance of this 1 acre lot, subject to our normal conditions, but also including that the owner confirm legal access to the severed lot, either directly or through a reciprocal access arrangement with the retained lands. So I'll welcome discussion on the application, and I'll welcome the committee's consideration of the comments received, and look for your direction on the next steps. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Carl. We will begin by hearing from members of the public. All comments and questions need to be addressed through the chair. If you have assigned into the recording secretary and have requested to speak to this application, I will call on you by name, one at a time, to offer your feedback. The first one I'm going to call is Andrew Mitten.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, I'd like to thank and I appreciate the work of the planning committee, and also have a great deal of respect for Chris and Tim Hortons as well. Whom I'm assuming is the purchaser of the property here, I think they're signed in. So we, in the absence of a site plan proposal that would give me a better idea of what's being proposed, our concerns are that there's a fair bit of traffic through Tim Horton's site at hours that our residents would be asleep. So if you've got so one of the concerns would be if you have a order input, the noise from that wouldn't interfere with couldn't be heard in the residence if somebody's got their window open to get some fresh air at night. And also, so apart from the noise issue is the appearance of the facility. And Tim Hortons does a great job of, I appreciate that, their existing buildings are well maintained, and but it would be and look good, but it would be helpful and important to us that how the building is designed, so that because we've got a 3-story building that would be looking down on the site, that any garbage and service be kept on the southeast corner of the building. And that if there is a drive-through, which I'm assuming there may be, that the order input station be on that side of the building so that the noise it wouldn't be audible for the people in our building. In addition to the other comments that I made, it'd be great to keep the lawn the size it is that's existing there, both for the appearance of their site and also for the view from our facility, from our building, and which some evergreen trees are great to screen the building from residential to the commercial use, and also that the building be located as far as possible from Toulon Street.
Anything more, Andrew, or is that?
Yeah, no, I think that's it. I haven't
Okay.
seen the, I'm assuming, they probably have a standard site plan that they've got in mind. It would have been helpful to see that. But I realize it's not a technical requirement that can be helpful at this stage. But without having received that, that's all the comments I have.
Thank you. Rob Garvin.
I have nothing to say, John.
Thank you. Tanya Bond.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I believe Tanya's, I believe her audio is not working. So Tanya, if you can hear me and you're able to contact me, I'm at the municipal office at extension 1136, so I can get your contact information and any comments that you have to the application. Sorry about that.
Okay, well, thank you. We'll move on to, I'll now open the floor to the applicant or their agent to provide any further clarification or comment on the public's concerns. Chris Samore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First off, there is, let's be clear, I have nothing but respect for Mr. Mitten. I've known him a long time and he's does wonderful things for this town and he's had that building a long time. But let's be clear, there are no budding landowners at 275 Brockville Street. There's an abutting street, there's a street on all four sides. So there is no, it's not like anybody's right beside us. If we needed trees, we'd have to look at that in the site plan, but that might be better off on Mr. Mitten's property himself rather than our property. It's a commercial building, it's allowed to be there. So I make no hesitation to that. I cannot speak for the operations, but it is my understanding that and Tanya, maybe you can give me a call on my cell if you don't mind, or Chris, 613-223-6066 is my cell, and Chris is 285-9050 if you wanted to. But my understanding that this will not be a 24-hour operation. This will be closed at, let's say, 10 o'clock. That's I cannot speak or guarantee that, but there's other locations in town. So it has been suggested to us that it would not be a 24-hour operation. We will be doing a site plan. Actually, Tim Hortons will do their own site plan. Obviously, they know what traffic works better. We are going to look at using both existing accesses. So both off of at Armstrong and one off of Toulon, and they'll be connecting the services to Toulon. So I think it's great. I realize that Mr. Mitten said there's traffic, and I couldn't be happier about getting traffic to the mall. So I don't, unless anybody has any questions, I don't think I have any more comments.
Thanks, Chris. Does Chris Haynes want to speak?
I'll just, Chris spoke for us, so I'm good today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I will now, thank you. I will now ask if there are any questions or comments from the committee members participating by phone. I don't think we have any. Thank you. I will now ask if there are any questions or comments from any other committee members.
Hey, how are you?
Okay,
Very good, very good. Sorry.
Yeah, just not a comment, but maybe Carl, I understand Mr. Minton's concerns, and in my view, that'll be addressed at the site plan, which will come to this committee. So, Carl, can you just run through the process after this? I do support this severance, but just to mitigate concerns that were expressed, how it works with the site plan, if you could lay that out for us.
Okay.
Thanks.
Through the chair, and thank you, Councillor, for the question. So if the committee approves this application tonight with conditions similar to what's outlined in the recommendation, then as Councillor Brennan mentioned, development would need to be proceeded through a site plan application, and that's where technical landscaping design, all of those features get addressed on a site-specific basis, and the concerns are they're fair concerns, and certainly I appreciate where Mr. Mitten is coming from with those. The zoning bylaw establishes a minimum 10-meter setback from it defines the front yard here as Toulon Street, as it would be the shorter of the frontages. So there's a minimum 10-meter setback for the development. So it would need to be at least 10 meters inside of the lot line. So that would be beyond the existing lawn area, I believe. So at this point, I can certainly I can note that that things like landscaping and design to sort of minimize, to buffer as best as possible, will be things that I will be looking for in negotiating the site plan agreement. Certainly, I can't make this committee any promises as to what's eventually going to come forward. Ultimately, this committee reviews the site plans, and they are approved by council. So there are those levels of approval that have to happen. But typically, if we were to require if the committee were to look for a setback that's greater than the 10 meters that the zoning prescribes, then the only way to guarantee that would be through a site-specific zoning exception that would be a condition of consent approval. But with respect to the size of the lot and the nature of the development, I think in my view, it's the site plan process is the appropriate mechanism in which to administer these. I think the challenge we have here is that the planning, the only formal statutory opportunity to speak to an application or to participate in the planning process and potentially appeal a decision is now. So there isn't a formal public participation component through a site plan later on. So certainly these questions and concerns would be raised at this point. But yes, when a site plan application is submitted, there is a review internally with staff, and once staff and having reviewed the official plan as well as all of our operational requirements from public works, looking at traffic and so on, then it would be brought forward for review by this committee and eventual approval by council.
Through the chair, just a comment on that. I appreciate that you spelling that out, and I also appreciate Mr. Minton coming forward and sharing his concerns, because when we get to that point, then we know what his concerns are. I don't think they're insurmountable, and so I do support the severance application, and I do appreciate Mr. Minton coming forward and letting us know what he thinks. So I'll certainly keep that in mind when we're talking about site plan. So thanks.
Thanks, Jay. Any other committee members? Wendy.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm supportive of, I think this is in keeping with development out at the mall. It is, as Mr. Seymour says, it brings some of the attention out to that end as opposed to everything being on Highway 15. So I am supportive of the severance, but like Councillor Brennan, it's good to hear Mr. Mitten's comments, because when we do get to site plan development, then those things are already on the table. And staff, I know, and then when it comes to planning advisory, we'll also too be looking to see if we can address Mr. Mitten's concerns. But in terms of this particular severance, and Carl, you mentioned that there is already a 10-meter setback from Toulon, so I think that may already address one of Mr. Mitten's comments. And I do think that this is Mr. Seymour's property. It is that end, having gone out there many times, as all of us have, that is sort of been a dead corner of that whole parking lot. So I think this is good news, and I am supportive of Mr. Seymour's application.
Bill?
Yes, three comments, if you will. Number one, I'm looking at that particular section of the parking lot. All I have seen out there for ages now are tractor trailers parked there and so forth, and it has become a parking lot for that sort of thing. So something useful like this would be a welcome addition. Number two, and number three, I think it's safe to say that both the Semur Group and Tim Hortons are well known for the excellence of and the completion of any projects that they begin. And ever since I've been aware of the Semur Group in town, since I came here, they have done nothing but good things. So I think this is just another one.
Thanks, Bill. Did you have something you wanted to say, Chris?
Tanya Bond did reach out to us by phone and said that that is their intentions not to run that operation 24 hours a day, but they are like everybody else. They have to get the head, not with the franchise approval. So it is their intentions. The other two are can easily handle the between midnight and 6 o'clock in the morning, or 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning. So she did reach out to us to tell us that that's their intentions, but again, they need the franchise approval first.
Thanks, Chris. Anyone else? Jay?
Yeah, not to, I mean, this is going to be a great addition to that end in town, but I think from a town perspective, and this is for council to consider down the road, that particular street, as everyone knows, has no sidewalk. And that's something that I'm certainly going to support as we continue to improve our streets and roads. But I think a sidewalk's needed there at some point. Not to make any promises, Chris.
Thanks, Jay. Any other comments?
Sorry, one more, Bill. Do you think we could ask the developer over in Ferreira that's doing the townhouses to put the sidewalk in? Would that be too much to ask?
Thank you. I will now ask if there's any questions or comments from any other committee members.
John?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to support the application. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Let's wait. That's coming down here next.
Oh, okay. But I just wanted to say though, but I think Mr. Mitten's concerns, they're reasonable and understandable. And so I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, thank you. The committee is tasked with making a decision on the consent of application. If the committee is ready to do so, I will now entertain a motion for the consent application B20-02.
I will so move. I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Mr. Chair, Carl has a question.
Yes, Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just confirming the recommended decision includes six conditions. Did you wish me to read out those conditions? Does everyone have an opportunity? And also, Mr. Mitten had proposed a number of site-specific conditions. So I'll leave it to the committee whether you'd like to include those as sort of notes to this decision or leave those as considerations for site plan approval.
Any comments?
I think they should be left for site plan approval.
I agree. I echo Mr. Whitmire's that I think that those should be left for site plan approval. You'll be dealing with the franchisee at that point, so.
Yeah. Jack?
Site plan approval is fine with me.
Yeah. Jay?
Jay?
Sorry, I just stepped out for a sec. Go ahead.
Did you hear Carl's comments on
No.
on the list of things that were Mr. Mitten was asking about? The rest
No,
of
but
the
he can
members.
send, he can
The
send
rest-
that to me.
Well, the rest of the members have all suggested leave it till the site plan is.
Yeah, that's what I said during the meeting. I mean, what we're talking about is severing the land, and the next step in the process is a site plan. So that's when we'll be considering all those concerns, which I certainly will be. So is that
Okay, thanks, Jay.
what you need, Carl?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for attending and participating in the planning process for the application B20-02. Any participants that have not signed in and require further notice regarding this application are asked to please reach out to the planning coordinator, Mary Remming, by phone at the town hall. Appeal rights, as prescribed by the Planning Act, will be outlined on the notice of decision. If you have any questions on this application or the process, I invite you to get in touch with our senior planner or planning coordinator. This concludes the public meeting of application B20-02 for 275 Brockville Street.
Mr. Chair, just quickly, I have to ask IT to bring back in Jacqueline Grimes for the next public meeting. In the meantime, any public members who have signed in that do not have an interest in the next two applications are welcome to sign out.
There she is.
There she is.
There she was.
No, she's still there.
No, she's there.
She's
No,
still
I
here.
only
She might
got
just
a-
not be on your screen because people are signing out,
I
John.
only got a little wee screen.
I've got an iPad. It doesn't get much smaller than that unless it's my phone.
Yeah, I gotta flip it to the next page.
Oh.
Okay, are we ready to go here? Presentation and hearing for 24 Alfred Street. MV 2001 severed and MV 20-02, the retained portion. I will now pass the meeting over to Senior Planner Carl Grenke to report a notification and summary of the minor variance applications, MV 20-01, MV 20-02. Following his presentation, I will call on participants one at a time to offer feedback, comments, and questions regarding the proposal. I will also offer the applicants in attendance or opportunity to address any concerns brought to the committee by the Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make this brief. The committee is familiar with this application and file. At the last meeting we had a couple of months ago, you approved a severance application to split a a lot off at the corner of Aberdeen and Alfred Street. So the severance application was approved with various conditions. One of those conditions was that the applicants obtain minor variances from the committee to consider reduced lot sizes. So at that point, the severance application was seeking to consider the principle of creating a lot at that area. And now the question before the committee is strictly one of appropriateness of the undersized lots for both the severed and the retained lands. So as before, all applications for minor variance are there's a fully public process involving circulation to all abutting property owners within 60 meters of the site, and we did that, and we also posted on site and gave an additional 10 days notice given to give people more opportunity to participate in relation to the state of emergency we're in. So we haven't received any objections to this application. Public Works and Fire Department have both advised that they're comfortable with it. They participated at the severance stage as well. So under the Planning Act, any minor variance application needs to meet the 4 tests outlined in the Planning Act. Does it maintain the general intent of the official plan? Does it conform to the general intent of the zoning bylaw? Is it desirable and appropriate use of the land? And finally, is this application minor in impact? In my opinion, this application meets the 4 tests. It is a reasonable, it allows reasonable infill development at this location. The severed lot at the corner, that piece is currently vacant, and when built on, it would essentially complete the streetscape of that block of Aberdeen, and it would create a bit of an additional visual density along Alfred, which is as a collector road, and certainly that's where we'd be looking at a little bit more density. So our recommendation is that we approve the application, subject to the simple condition that they obtain final consent approval. So just as a note as well, this application was filed once we received the draft survey, just confirming the exact lot size and dimensions of the severed and retained lands. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Carl. We will begin by hearing from members of the public. All comments and questions need to be addressed through the chair. If you have signed in with the recording secretary and have requested to speak to the application, I will call on you by name one at a time to offer your feedback. Are you there, Candace?
Yes, I'm here. I don't have video, but can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I don't have much to add, but I do just want to point out that on that, if that lot would be severed, the new lot, we're still able to maintain, although the lot would be undersized, we'd still be able to maintain the front yard, rear yard, and side yard setbacks, and still have the ability to build a minimum house size on that lot. The lot that has that 24 Alfred, the house that we're creating a new lot for that house, again, that lot would be undersized, but we wouldn't be the new side yard setback still exceeds the minimum. So I just wanted to point that out, and also that if you're interested, I do have comparable lot sizes in the immediate area on Alfred Street, Elm Street, Abel Street, and Davidson Street. If that's at all helpful for you, I do have those lot sizes that would be comparables. And that's all I have to add.
Okay, thanks, Candace. I will now ask if there are any questions or comments from committee members participating by phone. We have none. ask if there are any questions or comments from any other committee members. Wendy.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. No, I'm supportive of staff's recommendation. I've been monitoring all of the discussions at the Housing Task Force. This is in keeping with the strategic plan in terms of infill. It is one of the strategies that is being utilized and it will be considered now and in the future for having smaller yards as opposed to larger yards. So I think this is a great opportunity to finish off that street. And as I had not thought about that before, but in maintaining the setbacks, as Candace has pointed out, I think this is a great place for a smaller house and well within walking distance, and it does meet the some of the strategic goals of council and some of the information that will be coming out of the Housing Task Force. So I think this is a perfect use for that empty lot right now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Wendy. Bill.
I walked by there 3 times to have a better look to make sure that I imagined what the building would look like. And to me, it would be a perfect fit for that area. And I have no objections whatever.
Anyone else?
John? Okay.
Yes, Jack.
My visuals, you know, again, are driving by, not walking as Bill does, but I spent, you know, a fair amount of time looking at that, and again, I don't have a problem with it at all. I think it's well acceptable.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay, the committee has the task of making a decision on each minor variance application. If the committee is ready to do so, I will now entertain a motion for a minor variance application for MV 20-01 for the severed portion of the property.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I would second it.
You got that, Mary?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The committee is to do so. I will now entertain a motion for minor variance application MV 20-02 for the retained portion of the property.
So moved.
Jay.
Second.
Wendy seconded. All in favor? Carried. Thank you for attending and participating in the planning process for the applications MV 20-01 and MV 20-02. Any participants that have signed in and required further notice regarding the application are asked to please reach out to the planning coordinator, Mary Remming, by phone at Town Hall. Appeal rights, as prescribed by the Planning Act, will be outlined on the notice of decision. If you have any questions on this application or the process, I invite you to get in touch with our senior planner or planning coordinator. This concludes the public meeting portion of the Planning Advisory Committee meeting. We will now move on to the next item on our agenda. Thank you.
Candace, you're welcome to leave if you don't want to stick around for this.
Number 6, priority issues. We have none. Number 7, correspondence items, nothing. Number 8, project updates, nothing. Number 9, next meeting. Planning Advisory Committee meeting, June 11th, 2020. Do I have a motion for adjournment? Jay, all in favor? Thank you.
Are you golfing on Saturday?